welcome to the Friday, April 30th edition of the SVG-TV News. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. In our lead story this evening, the Caribbean Primary Examination, the CPEA, for grade 6 students in SVG has been pushed back to late July, while CSEC and CAPE will be held in August. This was announced by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves on radio yesterday, who said officials from the Ministry of Education updated Cabinet on Wednesday on issues regarding all examinations done through the Caribbean Examinations Council and the decisions taken in light of the ongoing challenges being faced by the country, with the eruption of the Super Volcano and the displacement of thousands of persons from their homes in the red zone.
In relation to education, yesterday we had a discussion at Cabinet on the CXC examinations and students' return, and the Ministry of Education made a presentation. They're interested in having, well, the exams are going to be pushed back, the exam dates. In relation to the CPEA, they're looking more like mid to late July for the final exam for the CPEA in the 4 subjects of mathematics, language arts, science, and social studies.
The Prime Minister Gonsalves said that the Ministry of Education is hoping to get the grade 6 and 5th form students to return to school for face-to-face learning for 6 weeks. However, arrangements will have to be put in place to accommodate the students and the teachers.
What the ministry is seeking to do is to see for the grade 6 and the Form 5s, grade 6 and the Form 5s, to see if we can have maybe 6 weeks, maybe a little bit more of face-to-face instruction. Obviously, we'd have to find other locations other than the schools because they're not available, and they are not likely to be available anytime soon. So the idea is sometime in the primary and secondary schools for the 6th form, for the grade 6 in primary schools, and the Form 5s in secondary school, to see if we can have some other locales, other buildings, community centers, and the like. And in that respect, during the cabinet meeting,
PM Gonsalves further noted that the government discussed with the Caribbean Examinations Council and the UWI's Vice Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, the use of the UWI Open Campus building to do all the examinations.
And we discussed the possibility of using the UWI, the unopened UWI building, the one which is not operational yet, but it has been formally opened. And he's favorable towards that and would get back to us. And to discuss the terms on which we do that, which would not be onerous. Also, we received the assurance of the Vice Chancellor that for the Vincentian students, when we have the CSEC and the CAPE later, that the university will make allowances for our students to come there and later. And to be integrated in a way the university would provide all the facilities for proper integration if our students or when our students join late. Then
the Prime Minister also noted that there will be special consideration to offer financial relief to students and also university scholarships in the United Kingdom.
and the government has initiated discussion, and very much so Pam Barber, who is our honorary consul in Jamaica, and Pam has sent a letter to the Vice Chancellor in this regard, and I spoke to Hilary Beckles yesterday, so Hilary on that very question. Allied to the matter of education, and an initiative which I started with Prince Charles, His Royal Highness, we're trying to work out with a university in the United Kingdom a certain number of scholarships, university scholarships, both for face-to-face instruction and for.
Meanwhile, Senior Education Officer Aldia Gums-Dyer said that the Ministry of Education is planning a continuity learning program for all students across SVG. Gumsdyer said that while this program will consist of this component will consist of let's take that again. Gumsdyer said that this program will consist of two components, psychological and academic. The psychological component is scheduled to commence on Monday, May 3rd at the shelters.
The psychosocial component means that we are examining the emotional and social needs of the students, because you will understand that this is a time when a lot of people are anxious. There is anxiety about being in a strange place, being unable to return home and not knowing when you would be able to do that. So we recognize as educators that it's extremely important that this area for the children be settled before we can even talk about the academic learning. So that's what we are going to start with, and we are hoping to start that as early as Monday in the shelters.
The senior education officer said school guidance counselors will be working along with counselors from the Ministries of Health and National Mobilization on a UNICEF Return to Happiness program in the shelters.
And even children in their own homes who now have to accommodate other people. So it is not the same for many of our children, whether you are from the green zone or from the red zone. And they will begin the UNICEF Return to Happiness program. That's a program that catered to the psychosocial well-being of children. So they will start that one, and hopefully.
Gumsdyer further noted that the following week, from May 10th, the Ministry of Education will start an informal learning program for the children in the shelters.
We start the psychosocial and informal with all of the children at whichever level, and then we are going to move into the formal learning. Of course, the grade 6 and the form 5s would start the formal learning before the others, and then we will bring in the 4th formers and then the 5th formers into formal education. Now the informal program is going to take on that learning through play approach. So we will be doing a lot of hands-on activities, skills building, because we know that come the next academic year, they will be going into a new class, the majority of them. And even if we are not able to teach the content at this time, what is important is for them to learn the skills so that when they get to the new class, they will be able to accommodate very quickly.
Cleaning has started across St. Vincent following heavy rains yesterday that resulted in flooding of several areas, including 3 shelters. Giving a report on the floods and damage, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said on radio this morning that initial assessments were done and confirmed that there were 9 landslides with losses of 2 houses in Rockies in East Kingstown. The occupants, he said, have since been provided temporary accommodation.
To Ian, for one of the house, and Dexter, there's one family 6, one family 7. They got temporary lodgings. In fact, one of them slept in the car last night. But the children and family, they got temporary accommodation. But the accommodation is being dealt with and other things. And I spoke to the Permanent Secretary in Social Development, and that is being dealt with. And I was also told that you had several persons, I'm trying to get the final number, whether it is 7 or 9, was at the downstairs of also evacuees, was at another building up there, and they had to be housed elsewhere too.
After a 24-hour period, the country recorded more than 2 inches of rainfall, with the highest recorded at the Argyle weather station of 6.9 inches. Prime Minister Gonsalves said this was the heaviest rainfall recorded since the December 2013 floods.
In fact, yesterday, between 6 o'clock in the morning and 12 o'clock, in that 6-hour period, they had 5.8 inches. They didn't write that down, but when I spoke to the meteorologist, my brother Billy, he told me that in that period, which is, when you take into account that we have roughly 100 inches per year on an average, that's under 9 inches on an average per month. It's something. Of course, that's the average. Some dry months is much less, some rainy months, but there was a significant amount of rain.
To help with the cleaning of areas, the Prime Minister said Bradza has contracted evacuees from shelters. The Waliboo Beach is no more, so says lead scientist monitoring the Super Volcano, Dr. Richard Robertson, who visited the site yesterday following the heavy downpour of rain. On radio today, Dr. Robertson said there would have been more than 200 meters of lands that disappeared, which was impacted by the lahars or mud flows following the heavy rainfall.
If you go along the coastline, there's a sort of area probably about 200 meters. That's basically the front of the Waliboo now is really wide. If you think of from the seaward side, where you have a sort of an area about 200 meters, and you go inland in a sort of a V shape, probably 200 or 300 meters. All of that has gone into the ocean. So you can't walk along the beach anymore. There's no beach. There's in the front of the Waliboo. There's no the ocean that the Caribbean Sea that's going into it, and the coastline, the front of the Waliboo River is now about 200 meters inland. In fact, you could almost walk with a boat a little bit inland.
Dr. Robertson said that it is more likely that more areas would have experienced erosion due to the mud flows, with all rivers connected to the La Soufrière mountain showing signs of lahars.
To go further in, that's the amount of destruction and damage that you had, certainly on this side. And I won't be surprised. On the other side, I suspect because the coastal shelf on the zone on the other side of the island, so on the windward side, there's a lot more gentler incline as you go towards the sea. So it doesn't drop off so quickly into the ocean. So I suspect the erosion is probably less at the front of the river, but there's probably a lot of erosion along the river paths. So that's what we saw. There was a lot of erosion, and certainly the Waliboo. If people see it, the pictures don't really do justice.
Dr. Robertson cautioned boat users traveling on the windward side of the island to be careful, as there are large amounts of debris and logs that are still floating in the sea.
The things that we were saying to people, suddenly any kind of speedboat, anybody who's flying any boats in the area on the windward side, on the western side of the island, they have to be very careful. There's a lot of tree logs in the ocean now just floating about because it's been brought down. All the trees that were killed by the volcano up in the mountains have been brought down by the lahars, and they're just sort of floating about the ocean. We went collecting some samples there, and they both one and a half time sort of, you have to be dodging these logs all the time. So you can't go speeding along the east coast, the west coast, if you were doing that with a speedboat. You're liable to have it mashed up because of all these logs, so be careful.
Meanwhile, Minister of Transport and Works and Area Representative for North Windward, Montgomery Daniel, has reported that riverbeds, including the Rabaca Dry River, were again impacted by lahars. Minister Daniel said after the rain subsided yesterday, he journeyed as far as London in the Sandy Bay area and observed that about 24 structures that had suffered damage.
Well, the numbers there is around about a dozen or so.
What?
And in Sandy Bay proper, of course, both at Cayo and Caro River, there are structures there as well. It's like about 4 or 5 at Caro and another 4 or 5 at Cayo River. So be about 2 dozen or so structures within those regions, within those 3 regions. In terms of, yes, the Rabaca River, it has been built up to approximately 3 to 4 feet under the bridge itself. And there is tremendous work there to be done. We have to ensure that we have more heavier, better equipment to go in to remove the deposits as soon as possible.
On the outskirts of capital city Kingstown, in the community of Rockies, Rohan, Annie and Ian Edwards all experienced varying degrees of damage to their homes due to landslides caused by the heavy rains. Ian Edwards says after he noticed repeated landslides happening at the back of his home, he quickly rounded up his family of 6, saving nothing but their lives. Ian jumped to safety carrying his 3-month-old baby in his arms. The family sought refuge next door, but that was also short-lived.
I gather everybody and tell me got to get out of the house now because the house is going and we saw the house creaking and all of that. So when everybody don't get out, I go back inside, I grab the little baby, and I have to jump the porch because I have no other access, no entrance. Everything just collapsing. So I jump the porch and I run to my neighbor for rescue. And when I run to my neighbor, about 10 minutes or so later, my neighbor have to be running for rescue as well because my neighbor house flood. So in all, we can achieve life, which is very important, and I want to thank God for that because no one died, no one get hurt. We all get out in time.
Ian says he also lost livestock and the family's pet dog, which was swept away and buried by the landslide. While the family is trying to come to terms with losing everything, Ian says officials, including Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, have reached out to him and gave him assurance for the future. He says former Minister of Health Luke Brown has located a plot of land where he and his family can rebuild. However, there are immediate needs for the family, including food and clothing for himself, his wife, teenage daughters, a young adult son, and a baby. Meanwhile, Rohan Edwards, uncle and neighbor of Ian, said he watched with horror as water covered his roof and began seeping through the walls of his home.
I saw all the rain, and when I inside, I saw water covering the whole roof. It's so frightening. When I run out, there's when I see like the whole inside, like water springing right through the whole house. Almost everything like practically damaged inside. Right now, I don't even know what to do. I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. Right now, we cannot go back in the home at the moment because we like to disconnect the current because of the place. It's stable. Real terrible. I be real scared to live here. I live in here for 30 years. First time I ever see like the amount of water coming on here. I saw water coming like from through the earth. And last night now I staying right above there. My sister giving me somewhere to stay for the night. And when I did it, I saw the whole landside, a big stone, everything coming right down and everything pack up. I believe if we get any more rain, this whole place will may go.
Rohan says while he is trying to salvage whatever remains in his home, a broken sewer has created unsanitary conditions, making it difficult for him to rummage through the chaos that was once his home. Annie Edwards' voice was heard on the viral video which showed Ian's house slipping away moments before her own backyard slid away as well. She says she was speaking with her son when the horrific scenes unfolded before her eyes.
Never experienced nothing like this before in all my life. So all I could about run and help, run and help. It was so devastated. I lost for words, but gave thanks for life. We had a little gutter, but not like this spring. Even the people that I rescued there from the Soufre, they was downstairs too, and they get flooded out as well by me. It was so devastated for them that they had to run from the Soufre and then they had to run from me. Right now I'm not comfortable. I still don't know what could happen because you see all the debris on this house. This is a retaining wall I had there. When you come down here, this was a zinc for the people to wash, all wash away. All the clothesline, everything here was flat. They don't have no water in this building because all the pipe mash up. Toilet, they cannot use it because everything mash up. It's real sad.
The families, who all live in close proximity to each other, face the difficult task of attempting to relocate for their safety and starting afresh. Members of the Edwards family expressed gratitude for any help that may come their way. They also thanked members of the government and opposition for reaching out to them. Earlier today, Governor General Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan visited a number of shelters and got a first-hand look at what's happening on the ground with the relief efforts and the humanitarian needs following the eruption of the Super Volcano 3 weeks ago. Her Excellency also visited the World Food Program temporary base at the Old E.T. Joshua Airport tarmac and the World Central Kitchen at Diamond, which is providing food for thousands of displaced Vincentians.
They assist us in meeting our targets, in feeding our people, and to make sure that they're happy where they are and comfortable. So I applaud you and your management for what you are doing. And I know that you have the experience, and that experience would come to bear on how you deliver to us. It takes a lot of coordination, but in times of disaster, it's amazing how humankind could get together and do what is necessary.
Meanwhile, a representative of the World Central Kitchen said while there are some challenges, they are meeting the needs of the displaced using locally produced food.
We're buying local vegetables and things like that because we want to, as much as we can, keep the money here in the local economy. Working with several distributors, our We have a director of procurement. He's on the ground here too, so he can look at everything. If you see when you pull up outside, we got refrigerated containers dropped by a crane yesterday. I mean, just every day making things better so that it makes it easier to do what we do. Yeah.
A number of international recording artists are expected to take part in a virtual fundraising concert for SVG, which has been severely impacted by the eruption of the volcano. The concert, dubbed Stronger Together, is carded for May 23rd and is expected to feature artists such as Rihanna, Sean Paul, Nicki Minaj, Buju Banton, Coffee, Dwayne Bravo, Usain Bolt, Alison Hines, Keys DeFenthaler, and others. It's being organized by the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS, Nicole Dyer-Griffiths, O2N Foundation, and OMG Media. The concert was announced yesterday during an OECS virtual meeting of the leadership of the Global Coalition in support of SVG to discuss the relief efforts to assist the country. On April 12th, the OECS launched the Stronger Together campaign to raise funds for SVG. OECS Head of Development Cooperation Resource Mobilization Unit, Lisa Taylor Stone, said since then a number of corporate entities, including Microsoft, have come on board. Taylor Stone said Microsoft has pledged to match all donations from its staff, and the Jamaican Stock Exchange has also been trying to get its members to donate. She said to date, the campaign has received $70,000 in pledges, with 40,000 of that already handed over. She said in the coming days, the campaign will be rebranded and relaunched. Taylor Stone said it is a call to action for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, noting that they will be using May 23rd to make a clarion call to people worldwide to join forces and deliver much-needed relief to SVG. She said 100% of the funds raised from the event will go to SVG. The concert will also feature messages from the heads of government of several Caribbean countries, including St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and Trinidad and Tobago. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Coast Guard Service on Wednesday donated a quantity of relief items to the Caliacor Anglican School shelter, which it said will help to ease the stress and enrich the quality of life of the occupants residing there. The essential items were handed over to shelter manager Marlon Joseph, who deemed the donation timely. Joseph said that he looks forward to collaborating with the SVG Coast Guard to educate the occupants on some aspects and skills associated with the Coast Guard service during their stay at the shelter. Leading seaman LS Sharika Diamond Dick, who handed over the items on behalf of the SVG Coast Guard, noted that through a partnership with some entities out of Grenada, they were able to procure the relief items. She further stated that the SVG Coast Guard will be partnering with the shelter management team to provide training sessions in basic seamanship and knots and splices for the evacuees while adhering to all the COVID-19 protocols. 9 new COVID-19 positive cases were recorded from 97 samples processed on April 28th, resulting in a positivity rate of 9.3%. 3 new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 138 cases are currently active and 11 persons with COVID-19 have died. 1,864 cases of COVID-19 and 1,715 recoveries have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. The public is urged to continue to use masks, sanitize, physically distance, and get vaccinated in order to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Police here are investigating a report of arson made by a 75-year-old watchman of Bayabu. According to investigations, some unknown person or persons without lawful excuse destroyed one 20-by-20 wooden house and its contents valued at $4,210 EC by setting it on fire. The police say the property was destroyed at Bayabu between 1 and 1:30 a.m. on Tuesday, April 27th. The police are asking persons with information that can assist with this investigation to contact the Assistant Commissioner in charge of crimes at 456-1339 or the officer in charge of the South Central Division at 458-4200 or any police station or officer you're comfortable with. All information will be treated confidentially.